Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidect, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Coalesce, Cool Stuff, and Archidect. And today I have a very special guest who's going to have the distinct pleasure of having to listen to this whole episode a second time or third or fifth time after we actually do the taping. My video producer, EK. Hey, bro, how's it going?
Shivam? It's good. I'm mentally preparing to have to listen to myself for an hour a couple weeks from now. So the process starts now.
Yeah, I thought it would be really interesting to have you on because beyond just being my video editor par excellence of choice and the maker of sweet virality around the Twitter sphere, you're also a bananas Magic player and play decks that are after my own heart. And so I thought it would be real fun to just have you come on and we jam about some cards and also talk shop about what it's like to try to take all of these different content creators' works and make them into something presentable to the world. Because I'm not the only one you work with, right?
I am hoping not. I will wake up from the dream eventually. But yeah, I've been working with Ailey and Olivia on Elder Dragon Hijinks. I work behind the scenes with Corey Baumeister for Commander Versus. I'm his manager at this point. So, if he's in a bind, if he's going between SCG tour stops or has coverage to do for Wizards, is, hey, I have 45 minutes. I need to build a deck. This is the theme. This is okay. We're doing budget, whatever. Corey, I got you. Give me half an hour. Just tell me what you want to do, and I'll help you out. We'll come up with a cool idea. So I've been doing that for basically since he started with Commander in the format. And
3 weeks ago or whatever it is.
Feels like it at least.
It was wild going to Richmond and getting to meet Baumeister and Brad for the first time, Brad Nelson, and being able to sit down with these guys who are obviously grade A pros, top tier pro Magic players, who've been at the highest possible levels of this game. And then watching them take 100 cards and go I don't understand. What do you want me to do with this?
Well, Corey in particular is funny because he's I don't know how I shuffle this. I have small hands. I was Corey, you play Yorian decks, which are 80% of the way there. Add a couple of extra cards.
The thing that got me, I got to be in one of Corey's first EDH games at Richmond. And he sat there and he played what must have been for the first time in my life seeing a mana neutral Dockside Extortionist. And I was what the hell are you doing? You're getting 2 treasures off it. And he's I need the fixing. And I'm bro, no, this is not the way.
Everyone's been there though. Everyone has had that point in their life where they've had to play the mana neutral Dockside Extortion.
It is tell me,
the tap lands.
Is there a sadder feeling than a mana neutral Dockside?
The only sadder feeling I can think of is if you're getting all of your tokens off of other people's treasures and clues and everything like that, and they sack everything in response.
No. Oh my God.
That's the fun game of chicken that I love with Commander. It's all of the mind games, all the table games.
Okay, so check this out. The other day I was playing a game with some friends of mine and I had my Enchantress deck out. And one person goes and they just jam a Dockside and I'm okay, well, you're getting 28 treasures. And they're what the hell do you mean 28 treasures? I'm this is an enchantment deck. Everything on the table is giving you giving you treasures. They're oh. And I'm yeah, GG.
Let's that I've always been the type of person. I believe you if you have it. Let's not waste our 45 minutes of time. Let's just play another game.
Look, mate, you have enough mana. I trust you will find a way. Let's shuffle up. But then literally the next game I pull out my Brea deck because I was oh, my friend wanted to see what did your cool Mega Brea combo deck look like, and I'm sitting here, I've got like turn one Tundra into Soul Ring into Monovault into blah blah, and then like turn three I've got my full combo of Brea, Eldrazi Displacer, Ashnode's Altar, and they're like, oh, like these are like relatively new or less enfranchised players, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to show you this combo right now because you guys have probably never seen this combo and they hadn't, and it was sweet. I showed them, I popped off, I completely obliterated the table, and then I said, all right, shall you guys want to keep your decks and I'll just grab another one and we can just keep going? And they're like, let's go.
It I've had that happen because I'm a huge Primal Surge player,
Oh, I
and
love me a
you know
Primal Surge.
you play Primal Surge, you flip the deck into play, and usually everyone's first reaction was, okay, let's go again, but can I play that deck? Because it is a very powerful feeling, just taking 60, 70, 80 cards, whatever you're at, and just saying, flipping it, plopping it right on the table,
Primal
and then
Surge is one of those
there's a win
cards.
here somewhere.
Yeah, exactly that. Primal Surge is one of those cards that when I started EDH back in Innistrad, Avacyn era or whatever, this was one of the mythics that had come out in Avacyn Restored, and it was one of those cards that when you look at, you're like, everybody first thing they do is look at the casting cost, and it's 8 and 2 green, so 10 mana, and
Yeah.
people would look at that and be like, this is unplayable garbage. What do you do? This is a commander. Like that was back when people used to use commander as a slur, like, oh,
Yeah,
what is this
yeah.
commander trash? And I'm looking at that going like, my Timmy brain is like, oh my God.
But at the same time, for the for the real and franchise players, it is a puzzle to put together a Primal Surge deck that just doesn't fold to itself.
Oh
And
yeah.
depending on the other colors that you're in, you get a completely different flavor. There's a big difference between Naya and Jund and Sultai Primal Surge, or even like two color.
Yeah,
Every deck looks so different.
and it's tricky because the fact that the card requires you to have a whole stack of permanents in order to really pop off. Because if you hit a spell, then this whole thing fizzles, right?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to get to 10 mana in green X, you're playing ramp spells and stuff. So you got to figure out what is a way I can ramp without using my old standbys that I can get to 10 mana to be able to just pop off with this monster. But and like the other thing that sucks is you can't like interrupt this with a Citadel Bolas or whatever in the middle and be like, let me just shift that card out of the way. No,
No,
spell's
it's all
resolving.
resolving.
So you gotta go and you gotta run.
And usually while it's resolving, you'll like I like to put in interaction anti-interaction cards in like Grand Abolisher or Lenvala or Dragon Lord Dramoka that say, hey, even if you could do something, I'm just gonna make your life easy and you can't do something. This is gonna happen. No
Silence
casting
is such a
spells,
good
no
card.
abilities. Yeah. And silence doesn't do anything against Primal Surge.
It sure doesn't. So
It's one of those. I we're gonna move on, but
no,
now that
keep
I'm
talking. I
thinking
want
of
to
it,
hear.
there's a every once in a while I'll see on Twitter, there's a huge conversation around Primal Surge because it's one of those cards. It's like, it's the quintessential commander card, but at the same time, it treads that fine line between being, the big dumb Timmy card and an incredibly powerful combo card. It's a one
Yeah.
card win condition. It is like the least casual card. So it's just always interesting to hear because they're, I wouldn't say people would necessarily want it to be banned, but it's definitely a card that punches way above its weight class at
The thing
times.
is,
Because
and
if you have 10 mana, you just win out of nowhere.
well, that's the thing though. You're at 10 mana. Is that an out of nowhere win? No, it's not. That's at that point, if you have 10 mana, like here's why a card like this would never be banned, just to give you like the thought process of the RC CAG type of thing. The idea here is that, a game's got multiple phases. You've got the initial setup phase where putting out mono rocks, putting out your dirtily do nothers, put out 1 or 2 mana creatures. Then you've got like your hesitant swings, your back and forthy interaction. Then you've got like the we're building up for the big cannon blast, and then you've got the chainsaw phase where everybody just comes out and just starts going ham. Right? Once you get to like turn 7 through 10, turn like 8, 9, 11, whatever, we're at end game. And if you drop a 10 mana spell that lets you win the game, I mean, you did the thing at the time. That's fine. That's when you're supposed to, right? Like, it's dropping like Crater Hoof, dropping a Primal Surge, dropping a Torment of Hailfire, whatever, any of these mega cards that's just going to end the game. It's like they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do. Now, mind you, because it is
If you're paying
green.
10 mana for something, it should
Yeah,
be doing
exactly.
something
You paid
impactful.
10. Something should happen. Like,
It's just
mind you,
it's a matter of when is it happening,
I
I
mean,
think
I'm
is
the
what it
doofus who's
boils
going to
down
try to
to.
play Aladdin's lamp or whatever. But like, realistically speaking, most Magic players are going to look at it and say, if this costs 10, it had better win. Somehow, it better win. Like, even I will let you. I mean, I will let myself play like 7 mana, 8 mana, do nothing, kind of like Dirtle spells, just because I've got a soft spot for old school Elder Dragons, right? Or like,
That's
soft
my
spot for just
brand,
like
Shivam.
big
You're preaching
beefers,
to the choir right now.
right? Like, I want to be able to play my like Arcada Sabbath or my I don't know, whatever. Your 7 mana thing, he's like, yeah, 7 mana, it should win the game in its 20 card deck. In a 100 card deck, it's fine. It's fine. But 10 mana, if you're playing a 10 mana spell in EDH and it doesn't win, then somebody stifled you and you're very sad.
It's the litmus test I always bring up with people who want to talk about cards that should be banned or cards that shouldn't be banned. And it's like, here's a card that treads the line in some circles but doesn't in others, and it's a card with very clear expectations behind it versus a card like Dockside or Thassa's Oracle that's self-selected
Right.
itself to a particular sect of the format.
Right.
You know?
And like, one of the things is a card, a win, like one of these cards needs to have a determinate win condition. Like, you need to
Yeah.
be able to look at this 10 mana card and be able to say, I know how this is going to win and is going to do it 80% of the time or 100% of the time or whatever.
Yeah.
It's when you've got like 10 mana, like if you play Omniscience or something, okay, yeah, you're going to win. We know you're going to win. You should. Like, that's the point.
Eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
Or any of those like mega blue spells that are just like 12 million mana that draw your whole deck. They should win. Like,
there's a win there somewhere.
Like, if you can't, then I mean, there's sometimes you can just safely assume like this is going to end the game. We don't need to go through the motions. Sometimes though, it's important to go through the motions.
Yeah, I like if I resolve a primal surge, I'll say, how would you like me to win? Would you like to get biorhythmed by Shaman of Forgotten Ways? Would you like to get Terror of the Peaks damaged out? Or would you like me to go to combat? Etc. Or would you like to get milled out by Selvala Explorer Returned while I have a Platinum Angel in play?
I don't like that at all.
But you're able to say it compactly and say one of these ways wins, and no matter what I do, it's on the stack above what you're able to do, or you can't interact with it at all because I have a giant dragon in play that says you can't interact.
And that's like rad.
That. It's quick,
and fine,
it's
and
quick.
Important. Like, I prefer that. Like, if you've got a way to win and you're just like, here's how I'm going to win. Here's the things. Here's the card. GG. Red. So
I was playing with Chase Mana Curves last week, and you before we started recording, you brought up Bolas Citadel, which I thought was really funny. I had one of those dreadful Bolas Citadel turns, and I felt horrible the whole time because you have to do it manually. You have to manually play everything off the top, and you have to do the reshuffles before you can play the next card and the next card and the next card. And it was the worst half an hour of camera time and stream EDH I have ever been a part of, and it was my fault. It was to the point like I almost just shouldn't have done it so we didn't have to go through it. But I hadn't gotten to do anything the whole game, so I wanted to do something.
That's the thing, man. There's times when you have to make a call, like how important. I mean, obviously, as well as I do that one of my biggest like just mantras and sayings in EDH is respect the other player's time. Yeah. Right? Like, I don't mind if you pop off if you've got a place to go, but if you're just indeterminately like somewhere and here's a win and it's going to take you like a million years of shuffling to get that land off and whatever to get there, I am less inclined. Like
Yeah.
that's why Paradox Engine isn't here, because Paradox Engine doesn't respect people's time. Uh, so Bull's Citadel was one of those cards when it came out. People were like, should we be having this on the watch list to consider whether it should be banned or not? And I'm like, it costs 3 and 3 black. It's fine.
It's inherently restrictive, although black and green are the two easiest colors to fix.
Sure, but it's also,
So
we've found that Citadel is one of those cards that definitely restricts itself, if
yeah.
that makes sense. Like people will look at that card and decide, is this a game I want to play? And then, they work from there. So I think it's fine for what it does. It's fancy, it's flashy, it's cool, but it's not gonna break the game in half. And it hasn't in the years since.
No, I mean, frankly, I don't see it as much as I do. But granted, 99.9% of the Magic that I play is on a stream these days. And there's just certain cards that you don't see in that like microcosm of the format.
Yeah, well, I mean, because there's a whole thing about streaming, and this is one of the things I really frustrates me. Like, Game Nights is putting on a show.
Yeah.
EDH Hijinks is putting on a show. All of these big streaming crews are putting on a show, and they want to keep it fast, punchy, and they want to keep you watching. And that means they want you to watch for like an hour or whatever it is that's long.
So
They want
I
to be
usually
in
say
and out and
70
done.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they want to be in, out, and done, right? And the problem is there are cards that are awesome and sweet and super cool if you're playing at home that don't make a difference, that we would never play on a stream because they would be entirely detrimental to the experience of the viewer. And at the same time, there are other cards we would play that are like hella fast or hella powerful or hella strong that just look for really cool for the viewer of the stream, but are not things you would want to do to your friends at home. And people have a hard time differentiating, or not differentiating. They're like just not thinking about it. They're just like, oh, that's a cool thing. I want to do the cool thing. And you take your cues from your entertainment. And then we end up with hyper fast, like, metas. And
The 70-minute meta is like definitely become a thing the more I get back to playing in person and playing with friends who don't create content, who don't play with other creators or with other influencers on a camera. It's a
sure,
completely different, it feels like a completely different format at times.
it definitely does. And I mean, that's fine. That's fine, but it's not fine. I would like it not to be fine. I would like people to go back to times when they could do things like play Primal Surge or play, Bola
That's
Citadel
why
and just
that's
have a
why
good
I'm out
time.
here fighting the good fight.
Oh man, I cracked a Vesuvian Duplimancy today. One of the mythic from
uh,
Dominaria. This card, I have no idea what I want to do with it, except I kind of want to put it in an Enchantress deck, just because it says whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that artifact or creature. So it doesn't copy the spell; it copies the thing you targeted. So if I put
yeah.
an aura on an Enchantress, I get a second Enchantress, and maybe another
My
Tuvasa.
brain usually goes to, and this kind of gets into what we wanted to talk about with like deck building philosophy. What is the biggest, most ridiculous thing that I can think of in the moment, and what can I do to make that happen? How can I realistically make the thing happen? So copying as many enchantresses as possible, or making a gazillion mirage mirrors. I will do whatever it takes to make the thing happen.
Yes. Oh God, Mirage Mirror. What are you targeting Mirage Mirror with that will let you copy it?
That card. With that card in play,
Yeah, but you have
copy
to cast a spell
artifacts.
to target the artifact in order to get the copy.
Yeah. So any spell that can target an artifact.
Oh yeah, because Mirage Mirror can turn into anything else, and then you can do whatever you want. I love
Yeah,
that card.
or if it copies a creature, you turn Mirage Mirror into the creature and then
Mm,
target the copied thing with Mirage Mirroring.
right.
That gets
Oh
into
man,
layers.
that sounds dumb. That sounds really
There's
frustrating.
a blue dragon from Baldur's Gate that makes creature copies of non-creatures. Name's
Yes,
Astral
it's like it was.
Dragon.
Yeah, Astral Dragon. It's from the Commander set.
I've seen people make like 3 dozen copies of various things because of that card. Like that's the kind of card that I think of with
You know,
that Vesuvian copy card.
I saw somebody take Astral Dragon. and copy a doubling season. And that's when you just sit there and go like, the game is over, but I really want to see how this goes.
I'm happy for you, or I'm sorry that happened, but at the same time, I'm actively engaged and I want to know what happens.
It was messed up. It's messed up. That card is gross.
That's not okay. But
Dude,
at the same time, I love everything about it.
Oh, every word in that sentence made me happy. But you know what now I want to do is I want to make a goal where I find a way to make copies of Midnight Clock, which is just like a good card. Like not enough people like Midnight Clock is one of the best mono rocks they've printed in the modern day.
That whole Eldraine like Strixhaven cycle of 3 mana
Monocolor,
rocks
dude.
and color are fantastic.
Cursed Mirror, Midnight Rock, and friends.
I have been known to take advantage of Cursed Mirror, doing Cursed Mirror things in the past.
You know,
I'm not
Cursed
ashamed.
Mirror is a real good card. Like it's an I think people need to get over there. Oh, we've got to play 2 mana rocks. They're too slow. I'm like, dude, slow down.
You're not paying for the fact that it's a rock.
Fine.
You're paying for the fact that it's a rock that does something else.
Yeah, it's copying your stuff.
The premium on the mana is, that you're basically paying that extra mana to do an extra cool thing.
Exactly.
And then you get something after the fact.
And the extra cool thing, for instance, for Midnight Clock is, getting to time twister yourself.
Yeah.
Like drawing 7 cards and getting to shuffle your library. Real good.
Getting to play a $7,000 card for what, 36 cents is very cool.
How insane is that, by the way? Like when I started playing EDH, Time Twister was like the dump stat for Power 9, right? Like it was like $300 where everything else is like $1 gillion. And now you can't buy one for love or money. And people are sitting there like got Moxes and they're like, well, you can't play Moxes anywhere. So this card is the one that you can. And CDH exists, so people want to draw 7 a million times.
People want a twisty. Yeah.
Like whenever someone's like, man, you should unban Leovold, I'm like, no. Time Twister exists. No. Why would you do that?
I mean, doing that just opens up a complete other can of worms. Like if we unban Leovold, well then Sway the Stars isn't far behind it. And Sway the Stars is firmly in it's banned and it's gonna stay banned camp as far as I have been informed.
Yeah. Because everybody's like, oh, you should unban that. I'm like, dude, no. It's literally just resetting the game. It's just making everybody start over, but at 7, it's awful.
And then I heard the take, well, it's no different than Worldfire. No, friend, no. Worldfire ends the game.
Worldfire ends the game. Sway does not. Like, Sway of the Stars gives... Like, it says, shuffles your hand, graveyard, permanents you own into your library, and then draw 7 cards.
Every single player does that, too.
Yeah. That Worldfire, on the other hand, is just like, everybody's at 1.
We are restarting the game, but everybody's at 1.
Yeah, and it exiles everything that's happened thus far.
Yeah.
So like Sway gives everybody a full deck again. So it literally restart. This one is like, you guys might have like 30 cards left. Can you find that point of damage? And someone's like, I'm going to put out...
Can you win before this Chandra emblem kills you in your upkeep?
Oh.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, that. Like, at that point, the game is just over. Like, You know what? I played against a dude who was playing with untapped cards, and we were all agreed it was cool. And he had a Rakdos deck, and his deck was full of things like, the countdown starts at 1, which was like, same principle. It's like, okay, we're all going to start a sub game, and we start at 1, and then we're going to go back to the mini game, the main game, and whoever lost that sub game takes double damage or whatever. And then he had like emblems on everybody and all these things that were like sulfuric vortex and things like that. And it's just like, GG.
That's cool. That's like, fun.
You have a plan and you have a premise and you won. Rad. Let's go. But like Sway and Worldfire
makes everything up until that point in the game not matter.
Yeah, so and I'm like, look,
it makes you feel like, why did we even play up to this point in the first place?
Right.
and
And
that's
like,
not the vibe that we want at our tables.
and you were right. Somebody could use emblems to try to win the game off of that, but that's that's not fun. That's like,
Once
yeah, you
once you
win
see it
eventually 7 turns
once,
later.
yeah, when you see it once, you're like, oh, like that was cool, but every time after that, you feel like you've wasted your time, and that's
You
not the
pass.
type of thing that we want to do. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just like you want. I mean, like, I don't mind getting blown out in a commander game if it's cool. I don't
yeah.
mind. I mind getting stalled out in a commander game. I mind getting like indeterminately, like, or like if you're just prolonging the game for prolonging purposes. Come on, come on.
And it's very easy to tell when someone's playing with their food.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like, look, just
there are three other people at the table who are very likely thinking the same thing as you, and chances are the four of you were on the same page before you even started the game.
right. I mean, it's like when you're playing in an arena and they've got the win on the table. You're tapped out and you have no cards in hand, and you're like, just swing. And then they start doing like weird combo or like, I'm like, dude, just hit attack all. You won. Let's get on with it.
Yeah,
I'm not going to quit, but I'm going to make you win. But you have won. Please win.
I'm gonna make you show me, but at the same time, I don't want to
Please
beat you.
show me. I can see it. Can
Yes.
you see it? Like, oh my
Oh,
God,
what
dude.
what is it? The I've heard judges say in the past, like, rule 104.3c exists for a reason. I think that's a player can concede the game at any point regardless of the stack rule or
Yeah.
something like that. And that's what they said. Your time is valuable. But when you're in a multiplayer game and like one person concedes, that's kind of a barn burner. That's a party foul at times. It's
Yeah.
it feels like it has to be an all or nothing sort of thing. Like everyone has to be in agreement. I've
Yeah.
never been in that situation. I hope I never end up in that situation.
Generally speaking, the people I've played with, even the strangers I play with, tend to be like nice enough to be like, yo, okay, I've got the win. Here's the thing. And then we just move on
Yeah.
instead of sitting here and just like indiscriminately dragging it up.
Yeah.
But I want to talk to you instead, though, for a second about Cascade. 5 Cascades, for instance, because I know
To the
one of your.
to the tune of Jolene.
I'm begging you to please don't cast that spell. Um, man,
the
Apex
seven
Devastator.
the seven people listening to this show right now who understand what's going on are loving it, but the other 7,000
Yeah.
are asking us what the hell we're talking about
So
right
let's
now.
talk about 10 mana since we were already on the 10 mana to green kick. Apex
The
Devastator,
greatest card ever printed.
10/10 with Cascade X5, which is just like, hey, I dropped this guy for 10, and now I'm just going to like flip the table and see what happens. What are you hoping to flip off of an Apex Devastator? What does your ideal hand look like off of that?
So I and this is funny because I had a deck that was entirely set up to build the best Apex Devastator cascades possible. It was a Saskia Storm, actually.
Hmm.
uh, where the only card in the entire deck that had Storm on it, or the word Storm, was its Holly Primal Storm. But that's besides the point. So you would
Hmm.
you would set your deck. You would cast Apex Devastator, and then in response, you would cast Congregation at Dawn,
Congregation at
which
Dawn.
so it's like white white green or green green white. It's an instant that says search your library for 3 creatures and put them on top of your library
Oh.
in any order. So you set up
Oh.
three of your 4 cascades,
Huh.
and you
That well, then
grab.
you just win, right? Like then it's a doomsday pile.
Yeah. Basically it's a doomsday pile of creatures. But I would grab Zakama, and
Mm.
because Cascade casts untaps your lands,
Oh.
and then usually Gisela Blade of Gold Knight, because I have a artist proof of Gisela Blade of Gold Knight, and obviously I want to get that on the table.
And that
And then I
double
then
damage
I
doesn't
would
hurt.
grab. I would grab some sort of haste enabler or like a mana outlet or like a Nyx Bloom Agent or something like that. So hey, I've untapped my lands and now I have triple mana. I have a bunch of creatures with haste and they do double damage.
Concordant Crossroad, GG.
Well, it depend because you still have a 4th cascade. You never know what you're gonna get.
Right.
Uh,
Mm. That's a
and
gross. I
that
mean, I
could.
like that card a lot, especially like what I want to do someday is like natural order on like the plant token from Colony Gardens into a
Yeah.
freaking Apex Devastator and be like, plant grew up.
Oh, does natural order cast the card though? Because
Oh
cascade
no,
only
it doesn't.
happens as a cast trigger.
Oh, that's boo. It just puts it onto the battlefield. Okay, then never mind.
I mean,
Oh,
there's a ton of ridiculous big green creatures I am happy to natural order into, but yeah, the limiter with Apex Devastator is that you do have to cast it.
I guess that makes it less broken. If you could, otherwise you just pitch it and reanimate it
Yeah,
or
every
blink it.
time. I
Hmm.
mean, my Primal Surge deck does use it as manual Primal Surge with Temur Sabertooth, but
Hmm.
like at that point, you're asking to have at least 16 mana at a time to be able to do the thing over and over
So turn
again.
4, you're
And if
saying in a green deck.
I've done it turn 5. I've done it turn 5, but I tend to run like 20 pieces of ramp in every deck that I build because
Hmm.
if I want to cast nothing but 8 drops and 10 drops and World Spine Worms for 15 mana, I need a lot of mana. And the only
That's
way to
true.
get a lot of mana is to run a lot of ramp.
That you know what, man, you're not going to hear any protest from me. Ramp is literally my favorite thing to do in Magic.
I used to think I was a Boros player. No, I'm a big
No,
dumb green player. I finally came to my senses.
that is 100. Like when I talked to Sam a long time ago, Sam was like, "You call this Boros crap, but you are the most mono green person who's ever been." And I'm like, "That is true." I mean, I've adjusted a bit to I'm like Selesnya Naya because I also like tokens a lot. But
Yeah.
really, what I want to be doing is like elf, into rampant growth, into cultivate, into like crater hoof. That's what I want to be doing in life. I just want but questing beast and just go fist to your face and have a good time.
I will have you know, this is like my commander fun fact. I've been playing commander, it was probably 7 years at this point. I've never cast a crater hoof behemoth, and
What?
I'm too far down the rabbit hole to start doing so now.
I
And
love hoof. I love hoof.
I love it. I've just seen it before, and I don't want to be the person giving that experience to someone else.
I I don't feel bad about it because hoof is going to end the game. It's no different
Yeah.
than any other spell that ends a game. I just like to have a bunch of creatures and then just go slam. But like the 2 decks I run hoof in, one of them is my Hapatra spam a crap ton of snake tokens to play, and they're all 1/1 death toucher. They're not going to win by themselves
No,
anyways.
you need some help.
So you need to have Crater Hoof because Crater Hoof gives you the critical mass in order to get the numbers up in order to go run rampant. And the other one is my Titania element, my Titania deck, because like I pitch all my things and I've got a bunch of 5/3s. It just kind of seals the deal, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't need it, but it helps. Um, just get the trample bonus. Um, Otherwise, it's not really useful in the other decks I run that have Greenum, but it's fun. I mean, I like just big dumb idiots that crash through and win. That's fun times.
There realistically, like, there's not a lot of cards that, if that's the thing that you want to do, there's not a lot of cards that are going to be able to do that for you.
Yeah, and the other ones are less just like less good crater hooves. There's like end
And raise
run end raise
forerunners.
forerunners, the gross pigs, and then there's the goat thing, the
Yeah.
crater goat behemoth.
Pathbreaker Ibex.
Yes, and like they're fine, they're fine. But I
See,
have the big
my head
one.
immediately went to Triumph of the Hordes, and then you're talking about Infect, and that's
Yeah, but
not
I'm never going
always.
to play Triumph for the Hordes. That is not like I respect you too much. I mean, yes, it would win. Like all of my decks just make it very easy, but I'm not. That's not a fun way for me to win. I
Yeah.
want to smash you in the face. I don't want to infect. People
I
get
don't want to
mad
say
about
that
it.
I like doing things the hard way, but I like doing things the hard way.
Well,
That
the thing
doesn't
is
take
like
up time.
it's funny because like a lot of people are like you guys need to nerf infect in EDH, and I'm like, if you look at an infect deck in EDH, it is always going to be like 1 or 2 mana creatures that are like 1/1s or whatever that are like unblockable pieces of crap and that fold to anything. You don't hate infect. Infect is medium to bad in Commander because at best you kill one person and the other 3 gang up on you and kill you. What you hate is Triumph of the Hordes. You hate
Yeah,
somebody coming in
probably.
or like that stupid what is the combat trick that comes into play that gives a dude infect?
Tainted Strike.
Yeah, Tainted Strike and Triumph of the
Black
Horde are the
card.
cards you actually hate.
Yeah.
Like infect by itself, it's medium to nothing. Triumph of the
My
Hordes is
hot
the win.
my hot infect take is that infect isn't an aggro strategy, it's a control strategy.
Oh, it totally is.
You get 1 point or a couple points on each player, and then you proliferate as the time, as the game goes on. You put a clock on players
Yeah.
because that feels less, that feels a lot better for the one player who gets knocked out on turn 4 and then just sits there and watches their friends play for an hour. At least everyone still gets to participate, and you don't feel like you're playing a volatile deck that fizzles out after killing one player. You participate in the game just as much, because realistically, you knock that one player out, and then you both are sitting watching two
Yeah.
other players play Magic, and
Somebody's just
you're
going to
there.
wrath the board. All your infect stuff is in the
Yeah.
graveyard. GG. Right? Like,
Yeah, what am I supposed
what
to
are you
do?
going to do? I don't know. I find infect to be just a boring kind of like it's fun in modern. It's fun in other formats. It's not a good multiplayer mechanic and it should never be a good multiplayer mechanic, and that's fine. But it's not bad enough that we need to change it. It's just like nobody plays infect. The few times you lose to infect sucks, but it's not like the end of the world.
Again, it's one of those things that with proper resources and communication before the game, it can self-select it out.
So what are you playing
Or
these days?
that's a great question. It's big, it's dumb, it's probably got green. I
Actually,
recently Marie Kondoed my decks
hmm.
over the last few days. I always keep I only keep together decks that I know I'm gonna play
Hmm.
consistently. And there were a couple decks that I just wasn't reaching for. Took them apart, and we're gonna figure out what I'm gonna build next.
Yeah, there are a few decks I have that are like that, which are like I haven't looked at this deck in a minute, but I don't want to take it apart. I might just archive it and put it into like I've started doing that where I've got like a separate area for deck boxes I don't use for daily wear. And I just
Mm-hmm.
take some of these decks out of my quiver where my main decks live and I move them into this other zone so I can pull them out if I need to. But because I don't want to unsleeve all those cards. And I don't want to have to like figure out what to do with them. It's a deck. It works. I'll pull it out eventually if I need to, but it's just not going to be one of my major players.
The big box of, hey, you can build literally 20 different decks. You just have to actually decide what you want to do. Box that I have sitting on the floor next to me is guilt tripping me all day, every day. It's bad.
So
No,
I want to ask you a question
yeah.
because it's related to this. A lot of our friends have come to you over the years, and especially recently, and said like, "Yo, I am new to Commander. I want to get in on this game. How do I build a deck?" And you will be like, "Here's a deck for you." Let's talk about that. How do you get to the process of building somebody a deck, or helping a new player get a deck, or cutting down? Like, if I give you a stack of 300
70
cards,
cards.
yeah,
Like I did this twice yesterday, so I'm like fresh up on the process and
because
everything.
I'm looking at a stack of my teamer cards here that I gave to Rebel already to sort out, and I'm going to give it to you to also sort out and just see what happens to make this into a playable build.
Yeah, it's gonna end up as two different decks, I'll tell you that.
Ooh, I didn't even know I had Wandering Archaic in here. That's cool. Um,
That's a fun one.
you know, I played a game the other day where for the first time in my life, I saw somebody cast the backside of Wandering Archaic. And a lot of us were like, there's a backside to that card. And it's like this weird group hug thing that lets you like take a land sorcerer
Everyone
thing,
ramps,
whatever.
right?
And yeah, and it's just like, why would why would you ever do that? Don't,
I would
it's
never
it was
do it,
wildly
but I like to
uncomfortable.
know that I have the option. You never know. And it's a colorless card. It can go in any deck. You never know when you're going to need a colorless group hug card or a
Sure,
crazy copy engine.
sure,
Yeah,
sure. It was wildly uncomfortable though to sit there and watch somebody actually flip over one of these cards. You're
yeah.
like, no, what are you doing? That's not the right
Wait,
way.
yeah, that's the wrong side of that card. Now, my process for brewing with someone else
Hmm.
is to understand that that deck is not mine. No matter what input that I give, at the end of the day, it's just a suggestion. They don't. I know that they don't have to listen to what I have to say, and I tell them, "Hey, this is what I would do. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to." But
So, what do you? How do you start? Like, if somebody comes to you, like Corey or something, and is like, "Hey, you know what? I want to build a new deck, or I want to get into this. What do I do?"
So
So,
I
yeah.
I have I have the speed dating, basically the speed dating round. What do you want to do? If you're already a Magic player, if you're a modern player or a standard player and you're just getting into Commander, what are your favorite decks from other formats?
Hmm.
Is it a possibility that we port one of those other decks over from the format you do play, so that you have a comfort zone? Because the last thing anyone wants to do is they show up to Commander. It feels like a Magic adjacent game. It is a game based on Magic the Gathering, I think is what Sheldon says every once in a while.
Hmm.
Um, so helping them find their comfort zone so that they're not overwhelmed, because there's like what 20,000 cards in Magic. The last thing someone
Yeah.
needs is to get bombarded by 400 different cards that they haven't seen at every single table.
Hmm.
They should at least be familiar with what with what they're doing, so that they can use a little bit more of that brain power to understand what's going on the table than trying to figure out how their deck works. So that's usually where I start. It's, what do I want to do? How do we want to do it? Is there something that you already enjoy? And if there's something that you enjoy, if you're interested in expanding your horizons, okay, let's figure out what is reasonable to, stretch away from your comfort zone that's still not going to make you feel overwhelmed. And
Okay,
like I
so
said,
let
at the end of the day, it's a suggestion.
yeah, so let's get some specifics in. Let's say I came to you and I'm like, I want to build a deck based around um Surak. Surak Dragonclaw. I got this cool Teamer Mythic from this random pack that my kid opened. It's sitting here. It would be cool to build a creature deck around creatures. I cracked a Gnawbone from this random Forgotten Realms pack. It would be neat.
Yeah.
What's a good way where would you go from there?
So the nice thing, because I've been through this with Samut, the nice thing with Sirac is it is completely open ended. You can do
Nice
anything
thing.
with it,
The
which is
nice or the
why,
overwhelming?
I mean, overwhelming, not so nice, but awesome that we can do anything that we want with it. My spice usually comes within the 99, whether it's a build around enchantment like Wild Pair or a build around sorcery like Primal Surge. Finding like some little nugget or like package of cards in that 99 that we can do something really cool with. Like, you know, do we want to be a Cascade deck? Do we want to be a Wild Paired, like, oops, all 6/6s deck or something like that?
Hmm.
That we can latch onto, because that helps that overwhelming feeling subside, and we can tunnel in and
Wild Pair.
actually figure out what we want to do.
Wild
um
Pair is a fun card, man.
I have the last artist proof of Mark Brill's Wild Pair in this pile on my desk
What
somewhere.
do you mean by last? Like literally the last one he had?
The last one that he had, and it was faded. For those of you who aren't
Oh, that's
Shivam
so
or
cool.
I,
It's T-Bone and Pumbaa. That's
and
funny.
I joked with him. Has anyone ever told you that the two creatures on the front of your Planar Chaos art look like a crazy Timon and Pumbaa? And he said, "No, that's really funny though, because I got my start in art and illustration working on animation like that,
That's
and now I
fun.
can't and now I can't unsee it." So you said, "This is the last one that I have. I have to draw this if that's okay with you." And I was like, "Cool, that's what I wanted."
Okay, you know what? We're gonna shift off of deck building because deck building is boring. And instead, I'm just going to send you a pile of cards and say, "Here, make this work." But what I want to know,
Sounds
because
good.
you held up just now like a stack of artist proofs. Like
These are the ones that aren't in decks right now. I'm that crazy player. I love putting artist proofs in my decks, because
I
it's the
love
best way.
artist
That's the
proofs.
best way to bling. It's the most unique way to bling out a deck.
I love
And
art.
I know
Okay,
and
so
I know you've been wanting to talk about this for literal months.
well, the thing is, because
Every 3 weeks.
half of the people I talk to have just an amazing collection of artist proofs. I have
Yeah.
an amazing collection of artist proofs. So here's the thing so one of the things for me is whenever I get an artist proof done, I like to have the artist draw a token on the back of it so that I can actually
Yeah.
use it. Not
Yeah.
because like the front side of it, like I know what the card looks like. Obviously, like hey, it's art that I wanted, great, but it's not like you can't see that it's an artist proof. It doesn't show up. Yeah, it's a signed card. Who cares? But if it's a token with their illustration on the back, then when I play like a zombie or something, and I'm like, look, this is a Christopher Rush zombie, then you're like, oh, it's an artist proof. That's sweet. And then I can flip it over and like show you the card or something. What is your stance on this?
You have me going through the pile right now because I, like you, like I want to show off the art on the
Yeah.
back because it's completely unique. But I also want to know what's going on. So I have this Lavinia Azorius Renegade by Matt Stewart, and
Mm,
he drew a portrait and a card frame with a nameplate so that we know exactly what it is when it hits the table. The same thing with like Horizon Canopy by Elena Danner. There's a nameplate with Horizon Canopy, and then she did a one-off like black and white recreation of the art. Yeah, I want to be able to show off their art because it's
yeah.
unique, it's amazing. They're incredibly talented at what they do, but I don't want to have to like I'm happy to flip the card around to the side
Mm,
that people do recognize, but having something that no one else has on the table and it tells a story and everything like that's what I'm about. I want to
exactly.
see the painting that Christopher Rush did, or I want to see the drawing that Pete Venters did, or
Like I have a Thopter token that I had Eric Deschamps draw on the back of like a PN Kieran or whatever. And yeah, it's cool.
mhm.
It's his signature, but it's a sweet looking Thopter, and I use that as my Thopter, right?
You have the most unique Thopter token in the world,
You're right. I mean, you've
and
seen
that's
my
crazy
soldiers.
to
You've
think
seen
about.
my token collection of my soldiers, which is
Yeah,
like all artist proofs or hand drawns or whatever. It's for me, it's less about the card that's on the front and more about what did the artist do on the back. Because like
yeah,
anybody can have a signed card, but who has like an artist pro like Argothian pixies with a fairy on the back, right? Like
yeah.
that's the stuff that I'm talking about, and that's
I
why I like.
uh
Yeah, go ahead.
I won the lottery this last winter, when the Kaldheim showcase secret lair with like the Uro, the Croxa, the Prime
Yeah.
Time, all that kind of stuff came out. I won the lottery for one of the three secret lair Uro sketches.
Oh,
So Richard Luong did three sketches for each of the printings of his various cards. So three non foils, three foils for each of them, and that's it. And I happened to win the lottery to get one of the non foil Uros.
so like
So
that's sweet. That's sweet. But at Gen Con, Steve Prescott was there. He's the guy who did the full art Indian versions of Seasoned
yeah,
Pyro and Young Pyro. And I had him take like one of his random, Thopter makers, Thopter engineer or something. And on the back, I had him draw actual
the
versions of the elemental tigers that these guys would come. So
excellent.
I've got like a big tiger for a Seasoned Pyromancer, and I've got a little tiger cub for Young Pyro.
If you didn't do that, I was secretly going to do that and
Yeah,
hold
because
on to that for a little while for
I
you.
mean, look, all I'm saying is I need 2 tokens per guy, and I've only got 1 each.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
dude, it's they're so
I'm
adorable.
writing that down right now.
They're so adorable, but also it's just cool. It's cool to
Yeah,
be able to go and like I think plus for me, it allows me to show an appreciation of the artist in a way that I don't get to
yeah.
do normally.
That is
Because
like the easiest way for any fan of Magic to be able to support their favorite artist, because the blank artist proofs that they get, that's part of the fulfillment of their contract for WotC for each piece of art that they do. That's just they just get those to do whatever they want. If you're getting a playmat or a print or something like that, there's a big rake taken by a printing company, for
yeah,
whatever you do, but they get everything related to the artist proof.
exactly, and that makes for a big difference because that's a lot of how they get their funding, right? It's the same way when you go
Yeah,
to a it's just like music. When you go to a concert, the way that
you
they're
buy the
making money
merch.
is off of merch. Speaking of which, folks, Coalesce Apparel and Design, buy my T-shirt. Um,
Again,
But
no one can see us right now, but we are both wearing Coalesce shirts by happenstance.
my Ristic studies.
I have the Goblin Anti-Mulligan Club one on. That's one of my favorite shirts.
It's so cool.
Shameless plug.
Not
But
at
yeah,
all
like
shameless, man.
that
This is how I stay solvent.
yeah.
Um,
That like you said, like, you buy the merch of the band, you get you buy the vinyl, you buy the
it's like
CDs, you buy everything like that. The
I
artist
had
proof's the
Andrew
same
Marr
idea.
draw this amazing Avenging Angel token on the back of his Dragon Illusion. It's super sick.
I'm almost glad that I was not in Orlando because I
Oh
would
my
have given him
god.
so much
Oh
money.
my god. I gave him so much
I
money,
was yeah.
and I was
He's
going to
so
give him so
good
much
though.
more. It's so worth it.
I don't know if you saw Olivia and Brian Kibler
I
got
was standing next to them when they bought all those.
a three, but they bought a 3x3 of a gold span dragon on treasure tokens,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm waiting for one of them to cast a gold span dragon in a game and just plop down
The three by
this
three.
a 3x3
So
and
like
like put two little dice in the corner.
Ryan Pancoast and I hung out a lot at Orlando, and I asked him to draw me an insect. And he drew me this pretty little butterfly. That's, sorry, guys, I'm just like going through my pile of crap on my desk, and it just happens. There are a lot of
The post production guy in me is thinking, okay, Shivam, I'm gonna politely ask you after we're done to just take some pictures on your phone of these so the people watching on YouTube can see them because they're so great they should be shown off.
yeah, seriously. Oh man, oh man.
Do you have a here's my question for you. Do you have a favorite artist proof of yours, or is it that Steve Prescott?
No, my absolute favorite artist proof. That's not even a hard question. Jason Rainville. Jason Rainville drew one of my favorite pictures ever, which is called Oracle of Dust from from Zendikar or maybe Oath of the Gatewatch, probably Oath of the Gatewatch. And it's, the meditating like Eldrazi on the side of the riverbank. And when that was one of the first times he had gone to sell artist proofs, and he went online and he put up a thing. He's like, okay, I'm going to be selling artist proofs. And I'm like, sweet, I want to buy one of these. And I emailed him about it. And I was like, some artists will do things like draw tokens or whatever, pictures on the back of it, sketches on the back. And he's like, I guess I can do that. Sure. And I'm like, no, you charge money for it. And then I pay you and then I get it. And
Yeah,
he's like, okay, well, a couple of bucks then. I'm like, sure. But like, that's for like a stick figure type thing or whatever. I'm like, and like, yeah, okay, well, what do you want? I'm like, I want you to draw me a soldier token. I've got a cool soldiers deck and I just collect soldier tokens drawn by people. And he read the email and he read, I want you to draw me a soldier token. And then he went and Twitter stalked me, found pictures of me from way back when, drew a full goddamn portrait of me as a Mughal soldier, 16th century authentic armor for like, and I was just like, what, bro, this is like $100 worth of sketch. This is not like
I hope
two
you
dollars
gave
of
him a
sketch.
very nice tip.
It's just one of
After
those things where
something
I'm
like
like,
that. Yeah,
this is the most insane thing ever. I mean, it's a full on portrait. Like I could
yeah.
frame it on my wall portrait in pencil. And I'm like, please
There
don't do this. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Take my money, you idiot.
There are artists out there who either for one reason or another they don't do sketches or they don't paint or anything like that. You will see artist proofs go for like $3,000 to $4,000 a piece, and I'm not even talking like beta or like
Casual
revised
monocrypt on
artist.
my desk for some reason.
I'm I have a long gripe about. For the longest time, I wanted to get a mana crypt proof from Matt Stewart, and I just kept putting it off and putting it
Mm.
off and putting it off until he sold out. And then I realized, well, I guess I didn't want a mana crypt. I didn't want a mana crypt, and then I cut mana crypt and I sold all of my mana crypts from my collection, so I wouldn't feel
Wow.
bad at all.
You straight just exiled the whole thing.
But what I did get instead though was a Najila the Blade Blossom
Oh,
artist
that's real
proof.
pretty.
And I know you and I share a mutual love of her ridiculousness.
Najila is a deck that I really want to build and also really don't want to build because I know exactly how
That's
it's
why
going to
you
play.
have to go completely off the wall. Just
Like,
do the most ridiculous thing that you can think
but
of.
the thing is, like, it's Najila. 99 lands and Najila is still gonna win. It's just she's a stick. She wins on a stick. There's nothing you can do about that. And that's why I
I
really hate that card, because I'm like, I love this. This is everything I want to do. It makes more tokens, it makes more attackers, it lets me swing, but it's so linear. It's like playing Elf
what
Ball in EDH. Why would you do that?
what people don't do is they don't read between the lines on Najila. Najila says anybody who attacks with a warrior. So what do? You make all of your opponent's stuff warriors, or you give your opponent's salamander warriors with Gormuldrak, and then you give them
Oh
warriors.
no.
And
Oh no.
you can use the extra combat to give your opponents extra combats. So
Oh my god.
my
You're
Najila deck
breaking my
is
face right now.
my Najila deck is a combat control deck. The whole point is to give everyone else stuff to kill each other with, and everyone else extra combats to trample and lifelink with. And then I'm gonna swoop in with Sun Quan, and all those warriors that I've been giving you the whole game, they don't have horsemanship,
They
so
sure
I'm gonna
don't.
win with horsemanship.
Horsemanship.
That's the kind of stuff that people that I try and promote with people building their decks. Is just think of the most ridiculous thing that you can think of after you read the text box. Read between the lines, and it's not necessarily something that a newer player might be able to do off the first grasp.
This is the sort of thing that we do because we've been playing for a million years.
Yeah,
right?
but it's the type of deck that you can give to a new player and say, hey, this is what's going on, and they're able to grasp it real easily. Like, it's a very easy deck to lend out, because it's pretty and there's like 45 artist proofs in it, so it's just it's an art gallery as they're
I should flip that question around to you. What's your favorite artist proof that you have?
If it's not the Uro, it's the Najila one. This is the first painted one I ever got.
I don't have any painted ones yet. I really want one though.
We're gonna get you a Matt Stewart. We're gonna get you a Matt Stewart watercolor in particular. He's the guy. He obviously he's done Thraben Inspector, but he did the new Delver. I don't know if you're a Delver fan at all.
Have you ever seen me play blue anything ever?
I don't know, but
I'm just saying.
You're an appreciator of old blue cards like Mahamati Jin. Delver is in that same vein for a lot of old school players and legacy players.
Hilariously, Delver is like still a new card to me, but
I guess it is only like that
10 years old,
right,
12 years old.
Right. Well, like right when you came back.
It came out right in the set I came back in Innistrad.
Yeah.
Because I remember I have like 30 of them at home, and I'm just like, man, this card sucks. Why would you ever want that? And then I learned very quickly why you would want that. Like, I don't play spells decks. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. In EDH especially, it's one of the things where I was like, eh. But like,
I had Shuyan built for a while. And after a certain point, it Marie Kondo'd its way out of my collection and just kind of.
I don't know. I want to explore other colors. I want to explore other colors and other creatures. Like right now, I'm trying to build obviously a Teamer deck because it's fresh on my mind. But also, I want to build, and I feel stupid saying this, but I really want to build like a Miriam or Rith deck, a Dragons deck. But like everybody does that, and it's so basic. And I'm like, but I love Dragons.
And that's the actual first time that we got to play Magic together. I played just my generic Dragons deck, and you're like, I have never seen a Dragons deck like this before.
Yeah,
because it was bulk binder dragons.
It was the best kind of garbage. It's just like, here's a dragon I like. It's now in deck. Let's go.
Like I have a huge affinity for Tarkir. Like Tarkir was when I really started getting into Magic. So I took all of my favorite dragons from Tarkir, and then just grabbed a couple more dragons from my box that I happened to have, and there was my deck.
I love it. I love it. It's like, it makes me, I like dragons. I like dragons a lot. And I like big dragons.
What's not to like about it?
You know, my biggest hang up for dragons for a decade is because my name is Shivam and they made it a Shivan dragon. And that's why I didn't play dragons. But I'm like,
people have been hanging it over your head, making puns off of it.
Yeah, and it's just like
a long time, I'd imagine.
Why would but at the same time, why am I holding back from my literal favorite kind of creature in my favorite game that I have
Yeah.
all the best dragons of, and they're just sitting there. Why wouldn't I do this? Why wouldn't I play every dragon? I love dragons. What am I doing? Dragon Lance is my other hobby. Like, come
Yeah.
on. Like, who am I kidding with this austerity measure that I've just put myself in? I'm like, dude, if I want to play a goddamn dragon deck, I will play a dragons deck because I like dragons.
Idea. You want to build a dragon deck. You just need to build the right dragon deck for yourself. You should do Sylvia and Corvath, the Battle Bond partner withs. It's a
Red and
knight.
white, though.
It's a knights and dragons deck, and you can make a Dragonlance theme deck out of it very easily because that setting is all about knights and dragons.
Hmm.
It's right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
Plus, you're doing dragons in a color combination not normally associated with dragons, so there's some inherent uniqueness to it.
Hmm.
You're gonna have a deck that not a lot of people have.
But the thing is, though, like I
The
have so many white decks.
resources. That's fair. That's fair.
Like I want to play. I just want to play big dumb idiots. Like actually, one of my favorite brawl decks I have is Joda. Joda with the old Joda from Dominaria first, which is like any spell can be cast for Wooburg, and that
Yeah.
was Joda Dragons because he was my secret commander. He comes into play, and then I can cast any dragon I want for Wooburg. And when I do that, I've got like all the dragons in there are like elder dragons or
Yeah.
like just the M19, M18, whatever cycle of dragons, all the random other just big beefer dragons. It's just I think I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna just make a Joda Dragons deck and just be like, here are dragons, here they come, deal.
Would you do the old Joda for nostalgia's
Oh yeah.
sake, or would you do this new Joda?
Well, if I get a new Joda, sure, but I have the old Joda.
That's fair. That's very fair. I think it would be really funny to just do all the legendary dragons, and every time you play a legendary dragon with Joda into play, brings a friend. And then your dragons get bigger the more dragons you have in play because it heroes podiums.
Wait,
And like
what?
does the new Joda, all your legendaries get +1/+1 for each legendary you control.
Oh, coat of arms.
On top of doing the legendary cascade thing.
That's gross.
It's
That's
yeah.
gross.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Hmm. I'm gonna have
It
to think
makes
about this one.
it makes casting that Dragon Lord Atarka or that Atarka World Render for 7 mana to ping 5 things a little
Mm.
bit better when it brings like Kyrie or or like Kakusho with it. You know, insert really awesome big dumb legendary dragon here to your heart's content.
Hmm. Man,
And
dragons.
you're breaking the mold away from Dragon or Tiamat or something
Yeah,
like
like
that.
I love Tiamat and I love Dragon, and I'm gonna get a Tiamat altered to be Takisis from Dragonlance, but that's just not. That's like
There's
so.
more ways to play dragons than
Yeah,
those two
like
legendaries, and
I
more
figure I can
fun,
put
more
Miriam
stuff.
into a Dragon's deck, but
That's
having
what I
Miriam
do.
lead the Dragon deck just feels cheap to me. I don't want to do
It
that. That's not the game I want.
just inherently makes your deck ridiculously more powerful when you have that consistency,
And
and
like the fact that it's
that
just like,
might
oh yeah,
not
this has
necessarily
Warden,
be
that
what
has
someone wants
Warden.
to do. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, it's fine. But
that's
this is a lot to think about. It's
yeah.
weird. I so before we go, because I know we're at an hour, but guess what? I get to edit this, and then you get to edit this,
And then
and this
I
is your
do, so
fault.
I know exactly what I'm getting into.
So I want to know, and I was going to ask this early on before we got distracted. What is the process when I drop an MP3 off in that folder? What do you do? Like, how do you
Uh,
go from this to video?
so I download the MP3. I am just I was brought up on the Adobe software, so everything's going to be Adobe software from here on out. I use Premiere to edit the episode, drop the audio in. Um, I have built like pre-made actions for the. I'm going to do one right now at the bottom of the screen. You'll see the thing down at the bottom change with the title and the caption or whatever. That's all a pre-done action. All I have to do is change the lettering as we go through the episode. Just copy all the way through, and then I have actions made for all the cards flying on the screen. Like right now, as you can see, I think in video, and I am editing. I've been editing this whole episode in my head as we've been doing the whole episode. It's just how my brain works. I'm a visual person. I'm a visual learner. But everything, once I've done it once and I have it dialed in how I like it, I turn it into a preset. I turn it into an action. So all I have to do is just drag the card file or drag the audio into Premiere, and then I just move things along. That's why.
And then you can do things like flip over our pictures and make them upside down. And
yeah, I can flip a card around. I have 2 actions for the front side of a card and the back side of the card, and they're flipping every which direction. You
Cool.
can do things like that because once you do it once, you work smarter, not harder.
See, for years,
if I was doing everything manually, no one would really be able to afford the amount of man hours it takes to make an episode happen. For those of you who don't know, a show like Game Nights, for every minute of show that you see in the final cut, there's probably about 30 hours put into every minute of the show. That's unrealistic for most people, which is why we work smarter so that we can still continue to do this, because we want to do this. We want to make these sorts of things happen. We want people on more platforms, because the more people who are on more platforms doing more things at a higher quality of work, the more people see it, and the more it uplifts everyone else around you and each other. When everyone has the resources to do something awesome.
That's right.
It's a very to TLDR, it's a very streamlined process because I've been doing this professionally for 13 years at this point.
All right, my friend. If people wanted to find you, find your stuff, find out what streams you're hanging out at, where could they go?
I'm everywhere on the internet. Eddie K Plays Cards. I got in early and I got that locked down. But I have a couple of irons in the fire. You can find me on youtube.com/casual magic with Shivam Bhatt. We're gonna get you the vanity. We're gonna get the vanity link set up for you at some point, because Lord knows that you are way past the requirements for that. But I do social media stuff for Olivia and Ailey and Elder Dragon Hijinks. I've worked behind the scenes with a portfolio of other creators and have a lot of stuff in the works. When I do have time, I make content for myself. I do a lot of shorts, which is the way I even got this job with you in the first place.
Yeah, man, you did this incredible. I feel like I skipped over the actual introductory part where it's like, hey guys, EK did this incredible short of me for my favorite clip I've ever done on stream, where I flipped over a Wrath of God after shuffling.
It's an all-timer for
sure. Because of that, I asked you to edit my show, and since then, this show has gotten significantly larger and better and cooler since, and I really appreciate working with you a lot. So thank you so much for joining me today, my friend.
You're so welcome. It's always a pleasure to, like, that late Monday. I have an unhealthy habit of shooting you a DM on Twitter like, hey, don't be surprised when the episode's done at like 2:00 in the morning, because I'm in the zone. I love the conversation going on. Oh,
this one's going to be a hard one to edit, man, because you're going to sit here and be like, who are these goddamn jokers?
We talked about a lot of cards, but that's the stuff that I love doing. So I'm happy that we could make this happen. This is
absolutely, man.
Joy.
I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm glad we work together.
Me too.
And with that, my friends, if you want to find me, you can find me at Gear Reporting Gears. You can find the show anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. every Tuesday, or at YouTube every Thursday. Thank you in person, EK.
You're welcome.
And remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.